But there's more to this story, though, isn't there? Because then Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, they were talking about fighting. So then McGregor Sports and Entertainment said, okay, we're going to do a televised sparring fight. Okay. Right, Harrington, what details can you give on this? Because it sounds like they were going to do like an official exhibition match. They were going to sell the TV rights. They were going to give Dustin Poirier $500,000 towards his charity of choice. And then they were going to raise some more money and give all the money to charity. And that's what Conor put out there. Poirier said he accepts. And then all of a sudden, boom, quick U-turn. UFC have now officially offered Dustin and Conor the fights. Harrington, I see you just itching to chime in. Chime away, my brother.
Just a couple of details to clear up there. The plan was to co-promote it with Dustin Poirier's The Good Fight Foundation. If you remember, that was the charity where Khabib took off his jersey. They signed him for each other. Like a lot of people in the MMA space are really getting behind The Good Fight Foundation for Dustin there. It would be co-promoted with that. McGregor Sports Entertainment would have zero to do with the UFC. Open weight, open air sparring. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you could explain a little bit about that, Mike. But then the UFC said, all right, if you guys really do want to do this fight, screw that. Like, screw your exhibition. We will give you guys this fight. That's when Poirier hopped on Twitter and immediately said, I accept. Nobody knows where McGregor's at with the UFC negotiations.
Interesting. So he was willing to do it straight away in a charity setup, if you will, but the actual real fight, yet to accept on that. No, that is interesting. But you got to give Conor, I kind of like what he did there. He said, fuck it, we'll do our own fight. Of course, they can't go out there and fight, but they could technically do a sparring match. I don't think there's any rules against that. And now, of course, people don't want to see a sparring match, but they could say, yeah, it's going to be a hard sparring match. It's almost going to be a fight. It is, and it would be a fight. There's neither one of them. We're just here having a light little move around when there's cameras on and TV on.
What is the criteria that makes a sparring versus a fight?
Well, sparring, you're just working together. You're trying to have a nice little spar. You're trying to get a work around. You're trying to work on some technique and things like that. A fight, you're trying to fucking kill each other. But I'll tell you this, in a sparring environment, even if a few extra people just come into the gym and you don't know who they are, and sometimes they lean against the ring and they're just watching the sparring, you know about that. And the ego in the fighter says, and if the guy connects you with one on you, you're like, fuck that, I'm going to give him another back. Because you always do it. Every sparring session starts the same. Just nice and light. Yeah, oh, yeah, we're just going to work. And then you get caught with fucking motherfucker. Boom, and you give him one back. And they're like, okay, bang, and then give you one back. And then before you know it, you're having a full-on fight. And that's kind of what happens in a lot of sparring matches. And I guarantee if there was cameras there and there was press there and there was a bunch of people there and it was televised, for sure, that would be a fight and not a sparring match. What else have we got? Well, we were going to talk about this. Joshua Fabia. Does that name mean anything to you, Lewis?
Yeah, he's a trainer. Give me a little more. Is Diego Sanchez his trainer?
Yeah, the School of Self-Awareness.
Yeah, he's like a weirdo. We talked about him on the show a couple months ago. And no offense to him, I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm not saying, maybe he's not a weirdo, but
he's a weirdo. Let's be honest. He's a fucking weirdo. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be polite because I know Diego and I like Diego and I respect Diego. And we shared a Hall of Fame ceremony together. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to shit on Diego Sanchez, and I'm not going to. But I will somewhat shit on that fucking coach. He's not a coach. He's a charlatan. He's a pretender. He's a fake, whatever. Listen, if it makes Diego feel good, then great, right? And Diego, who did he fight just a couple of weeks ago or last week?
Oh, I forget his name.
Yeah, the Australian guy. And Diego's tough as fuck, but he's got this coach around now that's doing these very, very strange corner methods, strange training methods. One could say it could be equated to touch butt in the park. That was a famous line from Nate Diaz there. But this guy's out of his mind. And he's been attacking people left, right, and center. There was a thing recently on Fight Island where Matt Serra, friend of ours, obviously hosts the UFC Unfiltered podcast, and they were talking about the time when Diego Sanchez fought Michel Pereira, right? And I think on the podcast, maybe Matt Serra said some disparaging words about this coach, Joshua Fabia.
Did you call him a charlatan?
I don't know if you called him a charlatan. I don't know, but...
Izzy Adesanya came out and he was talking about his pectoral. And what do they call it? Like gynecomastia, if I can say that right. And a lot of people were speculating that he must have done PEDs. He's got to be coming off performance-enhancing drugs. And that is just the most bizarre thing to ever speculate about. I mean, there is something known as the eye test. I'll be the first to tell you. Guy takes his shirt off. I'll not only tell you if he's using, I'll tell you specifically what he's using. There's the eye test. But you've come out, if you were part of those conspiracy theorists that were on the side that he's juiced up, you have now come out and done the eye test on quite literally the skinniest man in the division. Quite literally the longest, tallest, skinniest, least likely guy to grab a rope that's attached to an airplane and pull it, and accused him of steroid use. It's just a very bizarre thing. So then Izzy comes out on the other side, and he was very keen. He said, yeah, man, I know what you saw. I've been seeing that myself. So as a matter of fact, I'm planning to get an MRI and some blood work done. I'm a little worried about it. In fact, it kind of hurts. It's tender. Well, when he comes out and shares, and that's very believable, that was about the most realistic and honest and candid answer that he did not owe us. If he has any medical anything, he can make that his private business, but he felt he did owe it. He thought, no, I owe this to anybody that's out there seeing this, and I'm well aware that you guys are saying it's a sign of PEDs. I don't know where I'm getting it from, but it actually hurts. Well, when you start hearing about it from that perspective, and now you find out the guy might have to go under the knife and have something removed, because that could be anything under the sun, I think you're probably feeling like a little bit of a fool right now. I mean, in all fairness, you accused a guy of something who's using steroids, who's the skinniest guy in the entire division, literally, who you now find out has a medical issue that he's even concerned about. You've got to be feeling a little bit stupid right now.
Obviously, a really big fight. This fight was supposed to happen back in March. Just talk about Jarrett at first. You know, I mean, he's a really interesting guy in that obviously he came from heavyweight, then light heavyweight, and now has been undefeated at middleweight. I mean, what have you seen out of him in his last 3 fights at middleweight?
He's tough. He's tough. He's relentless, and he's got very good striking. He's I'm gonna exclamate. He's tough. I think that's a big key in his like forward pressure and momentum in how he takes fights and how he fights himself. But I think he's a dangerous opponent. I'm expecting a very hard fight, but I think I'm ready for it. I'm just going to be too much for him, and I'm going to weather his storm and just give it back.
When you say he's tough, are you talking about like his ability to take a shot, or like
exactly that?
Exactly that. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, both of those, because he's in your face. He takes shots. He can hand shots. He's very happy to trade 1 for 1. You know what I mean? That's always a scary guy, especially with a guy who has as much power as Jared.
What's more stressful? Because everybody was laughing about how you were talking about the chess match that you and Darren had, and I can see exactly why that would be stressful. Is because you're both sitting there waiting for each other to go, and you don't know. Or is it more stressful having a guy that's going to be in your face the whole time and it's going to, no matter what you hit him with, almost he just sticks around?
Yeah, it's two different beasts. It's 2 different beasts. I guess it might have been stressful if it was 5 rounds, but 3 rounds, I only got to do it for 15 minutes. I'm looking to pepper him and just pick him apart and use my superior striking to get at him. And I'm as tough as they come as well. So let's see.
Yeah. There was a time, where he lost 3 or 4, and that's when he moved down to middleweight. And it turns out that the 3 or 4 that he lost were to pretty good opposition. He fought Jan Blachowicz, Dominic Reyes, and Glover Teixeira. When you look at those fights, are you seeing anything that you can pick up on, or because it was at light heavyweight, it was just a very different fight? Or do you,
it's very different. Yeah, it's a very different dynamic. He as a middleweight is dynamically a different fighter than he was in the light heavyweight and the heavyweight divisions. How he fights is very different, as well as you can see he's learnt from those fights, and he comes into fights with different game plans and much more experience. And I pick apart those fights and I look at things that I can exploit that he can't really change on the go, but honestly, he's a completely different fighter to that period. So I'm going to have to adjust. I have a rough game plan that me and my team have made together, and I'm going to go in there with that, but also be adaptable.